Today's video is going to focus just on our shoulder girdle region, and we're going to use the foam roller as a tool to learn about our bodies, to learn how our arm bones move within our shoulder sockets, because sometimes we create within our own life a faulty movement pattern, be it from an injury or just overuse of improper body mechanics, posture. There's a number of things that could give us that faulty movement within our shoulder region, which at times could lead to pain down the road. And so today, when I take you through the video, I just want you to listen to your body, and if you are experiencing any sort of pain with any of the movements that we do, that's a clear indication to you to, number one, limit your range of motion so that you don't feel pain. And if that didn't work, to stop the exercise completely, kind of regroup and start over and find a pathway for your movement that doesn't give you the response of pain. Because our goal is to limit that pain pathway. And the more that we move our body through pain, the more we just emphasize and learn that muscle memory to work with pain. So I encourage you to listen to your own body, and if you have any pain response to any of the movements, then take my modifications, take a rest, or just take a breath, right? Sometimes just breathing through it and coming back to a still body can help you regroup and readjust. So I am using a soft foam roller. I am a fan of the softer foam rollers. There's all different firmnesses that you can see or can buy in the stores. I think this feels better for me, for my body, than the firm ones. So, and we're not going to be rolling on it today. We're just going to be lying on it. And so when you're on the foam roller for a while, if you are lying on it like we will be today, sometimes the firmer rollers can get a little uncomfortable. So I want you to be comfortable. So I have a soft one. There's also half foam rollers that give you a little bit more stability. You can use that today too. And then also a quick note, if the foam roller is not working for you and you don't enjoy it, then do all of the movements just on the floor without the roller, and maybe a pillow under your head would be fine too. So go ahead and lie down. If you've never been on one before, you want to have it so that your tailbone can be at one end and that your head is at the other end. We don't want our head completely falling off the end of the foam roller. We want our head to be 100% supported. So when you come onto it, make sure that you start with your tailbone way at the end, and you can kind of play around and feel where that's at, and then gently use your hands and arms to guide you down until your head is firmly on. And once you're on it, you can kind of play around and find a comfy spot so you're in center, reach back, make sure that the head is fully supported. And just stay here for a moment and just breathe. Take an inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And do that a couple times as I just talk you through some body awareness here. So the breath is going to help us melt and relax into the roller. Sometimes when we get on an unstable surface, different muscle groups are going to respond to try to protect and to balance us. And that's good, right? But we want to find a spot that we don't need to tense here. So if your feet are a little bit wider, that will give you more stability. If your feet are closer together, that's going to give you less stability, and therefore you're going to have to find your core muscles to balance you on this roller. And so let's just start with maybe our feet shoulder distance apart. That's a good place to start. And then just tip from side to side gently. Just enough that you feel like you're in full control. You're not going to tip off the roller. You don't feel any unnecessary tension or discomfort as you do. Just roll from side to side with your hips, your shoulders, maybe your head can even tip. Just play with it. And then come to center and just take a little bit of time for your body awareness here. Feel your head heavy into the roller, nose straight up to the sky, shoulders wrapped around like they're giving the roller a hug without squeezing. We don't want to squeeze or activate anything or overactivate. Let the back of the ribs melt into the roller. Let your pelvis relax on top of the roller. Your low back may or may not be touching the roller. And just let it be where it wants to be. We're not going to get into the lower half of the body today as far as alignment. Just go where it's comfortable for you. Let your feet be on the floor, nice and supportive. Knees parallel. So we don't want the knees to have to turn into each other or way out. Just have them nice and parallel. Feel how your hips are heavy into the roller and how each side of your hip, your right side and your left side, can just melt around the roller. And feel how your legs can support you, but they're not gripping. Your thigh bones are literally just sinking right into your hip sockets. If this is giving you any discomfort in your low back, you can play around with this and maybe just tip your knees to touch. Sometimes that's more supportive for some people. For me, it's not the most comfortable, so I'm going to have my legs just parallel. And we're going to start to just bring our mind to our upper body, shoulder area, just to learn it a little bit. There are many movements that we can do with our arms and shoulders, and so we want to go through all those today. Let's just start by letting your hands be heavy on the floor, elbows soft, maybe a little bit bent, heavy on the floor. Just slide your shoulder blades up the roller like they're going to go to the backs of your ears. And then just slide your fingertips down like you're going to reach gently to your heels. Not overstretching. Your elbows are still bent. Your arms are just heavy on the mat. Slide the shoulder blades up and then slide them down. So you can think of your shoulder blades literally running up and down the length of the roller. You can feel the right versus the left, if one touches the roller differently than the other. We want to be as equal as possible with the right and left shoulder blade, but we might feel a little different per side when we first start. And maybe as we get through the middle of this video and towards the end, maybe stuff will start to balance out. And so our shoulders and our arms can elevate, which we're doing now by sliding your shoulders up towards the back of your ears. And then they can depress, sliding your shoulder blades down into your back pockets. Do that one more time. Elevation and depression. Right? And so we typically elevate our shoulders when we're cold. We shrug our shoulders up to our ears and just melt them back down, depression. So can you find a nice middle of the road, right? So we don't want to be totally up to our ears because that's uncomfortable and that's tension, but we don't want to jam them down into our back pockets so much that it gives us tension in a different spot of our girdle, right? So just find the center where you're completely relaxed. You feel like you're in the center of those two movements. And now from here, let's lift the shoulders up to the ceiling, protraction, and down to the floor, retraction. So our hands are still just remaining on the mat. We're just letting the shoulders and the arm bones round forward, and we're allowing the shoulders and arm bones to wrap back. And so you can feel how when you reach the arm bones forward, you feel how the shoulder blades pull apart, and when they wrap back around the roller, they pull back together. So it's a little bit of protraction and a little bit of retraction. Really important movement in our shoulder girdle. A lot of times it's really easy to go forward because we're there a lot in our posture, and a little bit more tricky to go back. But we want to try to go back to open up the chest. So protraction and retraction. Let's just do a big shoulder roll. So up, back, and around. Your hands again just stay heavy on the mat. Your elbows can be on the mat or they can lift. Just do a big shoulder roll, and if you want, you can do one shoulder at a time, right? Just concentrate on one and then the other. Notice if it rolls nice or if you make more of a square and kind of a chunky roll, right? Are there clicks? Are there pops? Are there, what is it? Just notice. Let's go the other direction. Is the other direction just as smooth or not as before? Just a nice little roll of the shoulders, full circles. Don't skip any part of that circle. Take your time. And again, if you want to do one arm versus the other and just compare, you may. And then come back to center and rest and relax those elbows down. So again, at any of this, you can do one arm or both arms together. For the sake of this video, we're just going to do both arms. So what I'm going to have you do first is gently bend your elbows and bring your hands, your fingertips, right to the front of your arm bone, your shoulder. And you can feel around how your arm bone is kind of protruding forward up to the sky. As you lift the elbows off the floor and up to the ceiling, notice how your arm bones drop back into your shoulder sockets. And bring the elbows back down to the floor and notice how your arm bones spin back forward. So let's do that a couple times. So your fingertips are just staying at the front of your shoulder so you can feel how your arm bones literally roll inside of your shoulder cuff. And so our shoulder girdle this joint is a ball and socket joint. It's not a hinge joint, right? It doesn't work the same as our knees or our elbows, which are hinge joints. It works as a ball and socket joint. And so I want you to feel, as we do this simple movement of lifting the elbows up, feel how the arm bones can literally roll inside of the shoulder socket. And so if you think about where your arm bones are, the head of the arm bone, which is up into the shoulder socket, which is right here. Think of the entire arm bone being a big long flashlight, and the head of the arm bone is where the light comes out. So as we lift our elbows to the sky, the head of the arm bone, your flashlight, is reaching and pointing to the floor. As we bring our elbows back down to our sides, the head of the flashlight, or the head of the arm bone, is looking up to our ears. So just think about that. As you lift the elbows up, the arm bones go up, the flashlight points to the floor. And as you bring the elbows just to your sides, the flashlight points to your ears. Go a little bit further if you can with your elbows, maybe reaching them back overhead, and notice now that the head of the arm bone, the flashlight, is pointing to your sit bones or to your heels. And then when you bring the elbows to the sky, the flashlight points to the floor. And as you bring the elbows to your sides, the flashlight points to your ears. So just go with that range of motion a couple times. And again, if you want to do one arm at a time, I would recommend it so that you can feel the difference between sides. Sometimes we have an injury in one shoulder, and that shoulder and arm moves a heck of a lot different than the other. So if you want to take your time to alternate the arms and compare the difference in your range of motion, and again, if you're experiencing any pain with this, you know that you're going to limit your range of motion, slow it down, maybe take a break, regroup. Let's do that one more time, and then come all the way down. So now we're going to open out so that your hands are still on your shoulders, but we're just opening like we're going to open our little wings like a T, right? So you're going to open your elbows out to the side walls and then bring them back down into your ribs. And again, so we're still focusing on that rolling of the arm bone. And think of now the head of the flashlight, the head of your arm bone. When you open out to this wide position, the flashlights are facing and shining at each other, right into your heart. As you come down into your rib cage with your arm bones, the head of the flashlight is facing your ears. So as you open out wide to the sides, the head of the arm bones are facing each other, right into your heart. And as you come down by your sides, the head of the arm bones are facing your ears. So I'm just going to keep repeating this because sometimes it just takes a moment to figure that out in your own body. And remember, it's not a hinge joint, it's a ball and socket. You're rolling those arm bones inside of your shoulder cuff. So with your fingertips gently holding the tops of your shoulders, you should feel how when your arms move, how you can roll the head of the arm bone inside of that shoulder cuff. There's a rotation factor, right? So now we're going to try to take this movement into a circle. You're going to lift the elbows up to the ceiling, open out to the T, and all the way down into your ribs. And so your range of motion can be really small with the circle of the elbows. It can be really big. It's completely up to you and what feels good on your body, but this is all about body awareness. So if you think about the head of those arm bones rolling inside the shoulder cuff, you should feel as if your shoulder cuff was a bowl and the arm bones were spatulas, and you are going to scrape that bowl all the way around like it's thick cookie dough, and you're going to scrape it clean on all edges of that bowl. We're not going to skip an edge, right? Now, if you feel pain at one part of that circle, you're going to make the circle smaller, maybe do one arm at a time, and see if you can get the arm bone just to sink back into that bowl. Now let's go the other direction. Each direction can feel a little different, right? And each arm can feel a little different. Your goal is to sink that arm bone into that shoulder cuff so that we're not protracted, right? We're not hiking the shoulders up to our ears. We're not pushing the shoulders up to the ceiling. We're literally letting the arms and the shoulder blades wrap around this roller. We're letting gravity just melt us to the roller, opening up the chest, stretching out those muscles. Let's do 3 more. Let's breathe. Inhale, around and up. and exhale. 2 more times. Inhale, big circles with the arm bones and the elbows. Feel how your shoulder blades can move. 1 more time. Good. And then go ahead and rest your arms back down on the mat, palms down, and just do a little shoulder shrug up again and release it down. Do that 1 more time just to release out of it. And down. Now take your head and look over to the right. Let your head hang off the roller a little bit just to stretch. Melt the left shoulder down around that roller gently. And then take your head, look over to the left. Melt that right shoulder down around the roller. Just take a stretch. And then come back to center. Now, if you were okay with all of that movement, we're going to add on to this, and we're going to try to straighten the arms. If at any point you feel uncomfortable with straight arms, you're going to go back to bending the elbows and placing one hand at a time on your shoulder, right? So remember in the beginning when we protracted and retracted, we're going to do that again. And so your option is to have elbows bent, hands, fingertips on your shoulders, or if you feel okay with it, we're going to have your arms straight. Now you have a longer lever, so there's more that your shoulder girdle has to do to support this longer lever out in space, right? So go ahead and reach your fingertips up higher like you're going to touch the sky, and then melt them back down. Your arms stay straight the entire time if you can. Feel your shoulder blades wrap up and around the ribs, and then feel the shoulder blades wrap back down. So your shoulder blades are curved, right? They're like a little saucer, like if you had a teacup on a little saucer, a curved saucer. Your shoulder blades mimic that saucer. They're not flat. Neither are your ribs. Your rib cage is curved. And so you want your curved shoulder blades to be able to wrap around your curved rib cage. And so as you reach your fingertips higher, feel how your shoulder blades can wrap around the sides of your ribs. This is a really important movement, and a lot of times throughout life we stop or halt this movement, which in turn creates tension and pain. So what I want you to feel is how when you reach your straight arms up to the sky, the shoulder blades can pull apart from one another and they wrap around the sides of your body, kind of like they're wrapping around to your armpits, and then you just let them melt back down. Maybe touching that roller, that's fine. We just don't want to squeeze them together at the bottom, right? Just melt them down. Another analogy is you think of your straight arm bones as little fence posts. So you're going to pull the straight fence posts up out of the dirt, literally straight up. So you're pulling the arm bones out of the shoulder cuff, and then you're pushing, I shouldn't say push, but you're letting the fence post just melt back into the dirt, back into your shoulder cuff. So the fence posts are pulling up out of the dirt gently, and then the fence posts are just melting back down into the dirt. You can also think of it as pulling up like a weed or a flower out of the dirt, right? So the roots are still heavily grounded into the soil, but you're just stretching it up, but those roots are still in the soil, and you can feel that stretch. Those roots are your shoulder muscles and tendons and ligaments, and then you just melt it back down, you replant it. 1 more time. And again, you can do one arm at a time just to compare right to left. You might have one side that has a lot more range of motion or feels a lot different. And now we're going to plant those flowers back into the dirt, or push those fence posts gently back into the dirt. They're going to remain there, right? So that was protraction and retraction, what we just did. We don't want to be overly protracted all the time, and we don't want to be overly retracted all the time. You want to find that center and stay there. Now, once we're at center, can you reach one arm overhead, one arm down by your side? So you're just kind of scissoring the arms. Your range of motion will be dependent on how you feel. You shouldn't feel any pain with this. And if you do, then you're going to limit your range of motion. And if you can't get out of that pain pathway, then you come back to bending the elbows, and you have one elbow go overhead, one elbow down, and then you switch, right? So you have options. So you determine if you're okay with straight arms, continue. And so it's not about the hand. It's not really even about the lower arm. It's about the upper arm and how it speaks and communicates with your shoulder girdle. So as the arm goes overhead, you feel like you're going to shine that armpit to the ceiling. And then as the other arm goes overhead, you switch and shine that armpit to the ceiling. Soften your hands, soften your wrists, soften your elbows so that you can feel the nice communication from your arm bone into your shoulder cuff. And feel how you still get that spinning or that rotational effect. So as one arm goes overhead, that shoulder blade can kind of spin down and around the armpit. So remember, if our shoulder blade is that saucer, it's that curved bone, you can feel how that shoulder blade just melts down and around the side of the ribs. Let's do one more. And then lift both arms up to the sky. And we're going to try to reach both arms over at the same time. So feel how you're shining both armpits to the sky. And then you're bringing those arm bones back up. Do that again. Feel how your shoulder blades can go down your ribs about 20%. But they actually wrap around to the sides of your ribs a little bit more. And then you lift both arms up. Can you do this movement without popping your rib cage off of the roller? So if we have any type of shoulder tension or fear of an old injury, at times we will move another part of our body to protect the shoulder girdle, to protect the part that was once injured or that's really tight at this time. So can you keep the rib bones touching the roller as your arm bones move, as your shoulder blades move? The ribs are just going to stay put. Now from here, we're going to take it into a full circle. And again, with straight arms, it's going to feel a lot different than when you had your elbows bent. So if that wasn't comfortable to you, you bend your elbows, put your hands on the shoulders lightly, and circle your elbows around. If you're okay to do it with straight arms, go for it. Keep your hands and wrists and elbows soft. If you're soft in the lower part of the arm, it's going to talk a lot better to the shoulder girdle. If we have a stiff, straight, strong, tense arm, it's going to tense up our shoulder girdle and neck. So just notice how that communication happens throughout your entire body. And so your circles can be as big or as small as you need them to be. I want the circle to come from the arm bone inside the shoulder cuff, right? So we're scraping that cookie dough around the bowl. So if those arm bones were your spatulas, you're scraping the cookie dough clean. You're scraping that bowl clean. Let's go the other direction. It's not about how big your circles are. It's not about touching the floor. In fact, I don't want you to touch the floor. It's about the communication of your arm bone inside your shoulder cuff. Can you keep a nice long neck? As you circle the arms, can you feel your shoulder blades circle as well? So your shoulder blades are like little radio dials on the back of your rib cage. Allow them to spin. Allow them to move, right? They have a rotational effect as well. Let's do one more big circle. And you bring your arms up and all the way back down, palms to the mat. Soften your elbows to the floor. Shrug your shoulders up and bring them back down. Do that one more time. Shrug the shoulders up and lower them down. Look to the right. And look to center, look to the left, and look to center. Bring both arms back up to the sky. You're going to open your arms out only as wide as you're comfortable to, and then reach back up to the ceiling. Grab the clouds. Give yourself a big hug. You're going to reach around to your opposite shoulder blade. And now breathe in and try to breathe right between your shoulder blades and allow that breath to stretch your shoulder blades apart. And then as you exhale, just melt. Let go. Let go of the rib cage, the collarbones, the shoulders, the arms. Just let go of any muscle tension. Do that one more time. Breathe in. Bring that breath to the back, right between your shoulder blades, like you're trying to expand into that roller, stretching out a balloon. And then exhale. Just let go. Let your bones melt to the roller. Let them melt around the roller. And now open your arms. Remember which arm was on top, because we're going to do that again. But let's switch the arm that's on top. So reach up, 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 up. Stretch like you're going to grab the clouds, and then wrap your arms around. Try to touch the opposite shoulder blade if you can. And now inhale. Breathe in between your shoulder blades. Feel those muscles stretch. And then as you exhale, just soften the bones around the roller. One more time. Inhale. Expand the back side of your body like it's expanding like a balloon right into the roller. And then as you exhale, just melt your bones into the floor, into the roller. Good. And then open both arms up again. Turn your palms to face your knees. If you're able to, let's start with one arm at a time. Let's start with the right arm. Reach it back over at an angle overhead and then right back up to the sky. Left arm. reach it back. So as the arm goes back at that angle, feel how your shoulder blade glides down towards your opposite back pocket and then back up. So remember, this is not a hinge movement. This is a rotational movement. So feel that arm bone literally roll in the shoulder cuff, right? So if we're going back to the flashlight analogy, as your arm goes overhead, your flashlight is pointing to the opposite hip. And you lift it back up, the flashlight's pointing to the floor. Now reach the other arm overhead, your flashlight is pointing to the opposite hip. And then as you bring it back up, the flashlight is facing the floor. Let's try both arms, right? Your flashlights are facing the opposite hip. And then you bring it back up, both flashlights are facing the floor underneath you. 2 more times. Stretch overhead, shoulders glide down, neck stays long. 1 more time, you're going to open overhead and hold. Now, if this is too much for you, you know to rest and go back into a smaller range. Rest both arms down by your sides. Give yourself a big shoulder roll. Look to the right shoulder. Look back at center. Look to your left shoulder. And back at center. And rest. Relax. Take a deep breath. You may